Hi there and welcome to my channel. Today's project is for Altenew and it's time for a new flower. It's the Paint a Flower and this month is the iris. But at the same time, Altenew is releasing new products, one of them being watercolor paper and also the watercolor essential set. So I've already created a project with the iris and you can find it on my blog, but I decided to do something a little bit different just to show you how fun this paper and this essential set is. It's perfect to work with, especially if you wanna create some cards. And you guys know that I'm a huge memory keeping person, but I do love cards, and something I haven't done in a while is no line watercoloring. So all I'm doing right now is just I didn't even swatch this. I just took a piece of paper just to see how nice this watercolor set is, and honestly it's very vibrant, really good quality. I'm not gonna say it's artist quality, but it's really nice and easy to work with. So you're gonna see right now that I'm just kind of stretching the color to see how much color I can get out of it. So all I do is pick up a bit and just stretch it until my paintbrush pretty much comes clean, and then you're gonna see that I clean it. I just want to have an idea of how much I can play with this watercolor. So I'm gonna put that aside, and I'm gonna take one of the watercolor papers. It's a cold pressed paper, which means it's really white and it has a really fine tooth or a grain on the paper. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna use these as the Fabulous Florets, which is one of the stamps that was just released from Altenew a couple weeks ago, and I'm actually gonna create some masking of the two flowers. I just wanna because I want to create kind of a little cluster of flowers, so I need to create a mask so that I don't have those lines crossing the images. So I just stamped them onto, I'm using Gina K paper for this, and I'm actually gonna fussy cut them because I don't have the die for this, and I really want something that's gonna get really close to the image. So the easiest way is for me to fussy cut it. So I'm gonna take it off camera, fussy cut the images, and then you're gonna see me, I'm gonna come back to start putting everything together on my paper so I can get watercoloring. So all I'm gonna do right now is I'm using some you can use washi tape, I'm using painter's tape just to hold it onto my mat in place. So now that I have an idea, I know that I want to create a corner cluster with my flowers. So again, biggest flower on the center, in this case the corner of the page, and then I'm gonna use the smaller one to kind of extend it in an L shape. So for this I'm gonna use actually limestone ink. This is one of the crisp inks from Altenew, and it's just gonna give me a very faint kind of grayish creamish tone on the background, which is perfect because I'm gonna cover all of it with the watercolor. So once I've stamped my image, I'm actually gonna cover it with the masking paper, or in this case the image that I stamped, and then I'm gonna go ahead and actually stamp two of the flowers. And like I said, think of it as an inverted L, and that's the way I'm gonna stamp my flowers. And you're gonna see that it's gonna take me no time to set this up. Once I have the two flowers in place, I'm actually gonna use the smaller, I also created the masking image for the smaller flower. I'm actually gonna glue it onto the paper, and it's actually it comes off the paper. It's not gonna damage your paper. It's actually pretty good, and it holds mixed media really well if you wanna go that way. But it's just gonna, like I said, I just wanna use them to create the cluster and kind of hide the lines that are coming behind the flowers. So in this case I'm gonna stamp the leaves, and again I'm just creating my little cluster. You're gonna see that I'm gonna work in I'm gonna say that landscape format when it comes to coloring, but actually when it goes to the finished card I'm gonna move it into a portrait. What I mean by that is that I'm actually gonna flip the card 90 degrees counterclockwise for my finished product. So you're gonna see that once I have everything in place, I am just taking my time to stamp all the leaves, and a lot of the leaves are gonna be coming off the page, which means I'm gonna stamp them right at the edge. And again, I'm gonna actually, one of the reasons why I covered the edge of the paper with masking tape, in this case, or painter's tape, is because I'm actually gonna trim it after when I do my finished card. I just want to create my panel. So now that I'm set, I'm gonna start working on my watercoloring, and this took me literally almost 2 hours to complete the entire image. So I'm gonna show you bits and pieces, and even like that, and I'm gonna speed it up, and everything is almost, it's a really long video, but if I put the whole thing, you guys will be here until tomorrow. So I'm just gonna speed up, show you a little bit, and then put some music, and then I'm gonna come back. So all I'm gonna do, and the way I like working my watercoloring, is I'm gonna add a vase, or not a vase, yeah, I'm gonna kind of wet the image. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna use a clean brush and just paint the entire petal with water, and then I'm gonna come in with the watercolor, and I'm using actually actually I'm gonna use really warm tones for these flowers, and you're gonna see that I'm using just a little bit of the pigment. It's very vibrant, it matches the color inks of Altenew, and it's actually great quality. I'm not gonna say it's artist quality, because if you've seen the artist quality palette from Altenew, is gorgeous, but this one is really great, easy to carry around. It has all the colors you need to mix and match to create a beautiful palette. And trust me, if you want to invest in one, you gotta try this one. So all I'm doing right now, like I said, is I apply water, I paint my petal with water, and then I'm gonna come in with some of the pigment, in this case the watercolor, and just stretch it on my petal. And I'm gonna start creating a little bit of shading, not lots. I'm just, right now all I'm worried about is painting and kind of puddling the water towards the corners of the petal, because I just know that that's where I want to add more pigment. I'm gonna add more accents along the way. You're gonna see that I'm gonna come in and add a little bit more of the watercolor just to emphasize those little corners. I just want to create some movement, I want to create some dimension, and I'm gonna do that all with the watercolor. So all I'm doing right now is just painting the petals, adding a little bit extra pigment, like I said, to the corners of each of the petals, trying to leave in the center of the petal really light so that I can create the dimension and give it more of like a natural look to the flower. And you're gonna see that the ink that I have used is really light, so when you add the watercolor, it actually helps you define the petal and it gets hidden. So I'm just gonna continue working this fashion, and I'm actually speed it up a little bit just because it does take some time. You're gonna see that I have some paper towel on the side just to clean my brush in between, to also soak up all the extra water that I have, so I have more of a dry application in some areas. And this is actually something that I used to do a lot before. I haven't done it. It takes quite a bit of time. It's something that is very relaxing, so if you want to do it, go ahead. It's very relaxing, especially if you like watercolor. No line watercoloring techniques are amazing. They're relaxing, but they do take time. So like I said, I'm gonna put some music and just continue working the flower. So I'll see you back in a bit. see right now that I've actually taken my time to finish the flower, and I'm just working on the center. And the way I'm going with it, you're gonna see that I'm using just the tip of my brush, and I'm picking up, I combined the three colors. I think it's citrus burst, a little bit of paper bag, I can remember the orange, but I mix them together. And then I'm just gonna go into create tiny little circles around the center. There's little dots in this, like little tiny circles, so I'm just gonna go careful around it just to create the center of the flower. And I'm, like I said before, I'm speeding it up, but I really took my time to detail. I did not over detail, but enough to give it some life. So again, I'm just gonna take my time, and once I'm finished with that, I'm actually gonna start working on the rest of the flowers. And I'm gonna show you little snippets of how I created the rest, but I'm not gonna show you a lot of detail because, like I said, it took me over 2 hours to complete this. So you're gonna see that there are other flowers that I created. I wanted to keep that one more on the fuchsia. I think that is I can't remember the color right now, grapevine. And then I'm gonna mix it a little bit with the orange just to give me this warm coral tone. And then I'm gonna start detailing the other flowers in the same fashion. Again, I'm gonna lightly add some water. I'm kind of paint the petal with clear water, and then I'm actually going to bring some of the pigment and then just start coloring and defining the petal with the pigment in this case, and start kind of but puddling the pigment towards the edges or the tips of the petal, just so that it creates the light and it creates a little bit of movement, and it gives a more realistic look to each of the petal. Again, this is gonna take me some time. I'm gonna show you a bit. One of the things that I am gonna take care of when I start detailing this part is that some of these petals are they're underneath the main flower. So I'm gonna make sure that when I paint them, I add the extra shadow just to create that dimension with the watercolor. And you're gonna see that, again, pretty simple. The first step is just adding the clean water, then I'm gonna add the pigment, and then I'm gonna lightly start adding extra pigment until I start creating the shading. And I know that there's different ways to go with watercoloring. It's actually depends on what you like to do it, the time you want to take it, how much detail you want to add to it. I like working in little increments. As what I mean by that is I'm gonna start with a soft shadow and then lightly work adding more depth to the color. So sometimes I will let the paint dry a little bit just so it sets, and then add an extra layer so that I get the right depthness of color, and so on. So again, I'm just gonna show you a bit, and I'm gonna take it actually off camera. I did not take it off camera, I recorded, and that's how I know I had at the end of the entire video, I had 2 hours and 45 minutes of footage, and I couldn't even, my camera died and I couldn't even finish recording the entire process. That's how bad it was. So again, I'm just gonna cut it off right now a little bit just so you have an idea, and I'm gonna come back again to keep showing you what I did. And once again, you're gonna see I'm actually gonna put it really close so you see what the watercolor process looks like. And just because, again, I played with the camera, I just kept coloring. It took me an afternoon. I really enjoyed it. I enjoy this. It's time consuming, but it's very relaxing. So again, I'm just so you see up close how my process works. I'm just, again, lightly just gonna explain to you what it looks like. I'm just gonna color each of the petals with clean water, and then I'm actually diluted some of the paint, and I'm gonna, in this case, the watercolor, and I'm just gonna apply it onto the petal. In this case, that part that I have added the water, so it's damp, so the watercolor is gonna flow nicely on that petal. And then I'm just with the same pigment and start adding some shading to the petal and just kind of creating the light effect. In this case, I'm actually going with something really light in the center that's just gonna create a little bit of movement, more realism. And then I'm gonna just take it off camera again, not off camera, but I'm gonna take you guys off camera because I don't think you want to keep looking at the same coloring for the next 20 minutes. So I'm just gonna show you a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back in a little bit just with my project all done, but so you can see it up close what it's looking like. Once I finished all the flowers, and I went on to the leaves, and the leaves are actually pretty simple. I just added, again, I washed the petal, in this case, I painted with clear water. I'm gonna add some shades of green, and then you're gonna see that I'm gonna bring, actually I mixed a little bit of black into the green just to create that shadow that comes right at the edge between the petal and the leaf. That's just gonna help me, like, you know, bring that depthness of color. After that, I'm actually gonna mix a little bit of the gray. I think it's not jet black, I can remember the name, but it's gray, and I'm just gonna watercolor the entire panel, making sure that I add extra pigment where the flowers and the petals meet the background. That's just gonna help me create a little bit of a shadow, give more of an illusion of depth and dimension. So you're gonna see that I'm adding a soft wash, but I'm adding the extra bit of pigment just on those nooks and crannies, just to help me, you know, create that dimension. Once that's done, and it's pretty much done right now, I'm actually going to clean up the masking tape. And I did it once it dried a little bit, and I'm actually you're gonna see that I'm gonna come in with the watercolor again. And like I said, I work in increments, and I'm just gonna bring pretty much pure pigment. And what I mean by that is my brush is not completely wet, it's tiny little bit damp, but I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the watercolor and just kind of like hit the ends and deepen the color just at the areas closer to the center, in between the petals, just to create that little bit of extra shadow, create a little bit of extra dimension, and just make the image pop. So again, my brush for the last little bit is lightly wet. It's very like tiny little bit of water. I'm just going more into picking up pigment, which I mean is by that the watercolor, and just you're gonna see that I'm start flickering the brush a bit. I'm just gonna create the soft shadow, define the petals, make all the little details pop. And again, it took me some time, but I really enjoy what it looks like. You're gonna see that I even clean it up with my finger just to soften the lines. I'm only working with that brush. I don't have the two that I was working with before, so I'm just gonna continue working this way. And like I said, all I'm doing is adding tiny little bit of the pigment just to make all the petals pop. And once I am done with this, I'm pretty much done. And that's where I said my camera I had been filming the entire day. This was the last process of the day. No, sorry, I finished that, and then I started painting the iris, and that's when I realized that the camera had that a long time ago. So all I'm gonna do is just, once I finish with that, and here's where I got the idea that I like the image better on a portrait mode. What I mean by that is vertical instead of being a horizontal that I have been working with. And once I'm done that, all I did is trim the edges, that edge that I created with the masking tape. I trimmed it with my guillotine, and then actually added a little drops of the black ink. And then I came with the sentiment comes from the watercolor roses, and I just added that with a little bit of black obsidian ink towards that empty space that I have at the bottom. And then I just added some sequins, and that's about it. I love how this turned out. It took me a while, but I love the process. I love the paper. The paper is amazing to work with watercolor. And the watercolor palette, this is essential watercolor palette. It's easy to carry on. It's a great product. You can get beautiful colors, easy to mix and match, and as always, it's an excellent quality, just like Altenew will produce. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Bye bye.